project is entitled Analyzing Characteristics of User-Generated Data, or UGC, in Yelp. So UGC plays a major role in the social media today around us. It represents the unfiltered information or opinion from the grassroots, and also it often comes in large volume. And here are some examples of UGC commonly seen. So this one is Amazon reviews. This one is Yelp reviews of the restaurants, and this one is trip recommendations on TripAdvisor.com. And because UGC is largely from the grassroots, it is often not validated, and the veracity is uncertain, which may result in potential bias or distortion. So UGC is a really complicated concept, and here are some literature I found for that topic. These two studies suggest that UGC have different aspects of values, and also users also have different roles in the social media network. In addition, this study suggests that content generated by users of the vocal minority and silent majority groups is different, which says there might be intrinsic discrepancies of UGC generated among different users. And lastly, this study suggests that UGC have a very influential power on users' behaviors. This is an empirical study studying the traveler reviews having influence on online sales. So based on these findings, I think I would like to investigate the characteristics of UGC in the social network, specifically Yelp, which is heavily relying upon the UGC. So here are my research objectives in three aspects. First, what are users' preferences of businesses on Yelp? Second, how are users distributed and connected in Yelp's network? Third, are there patterns in the spatial distribution of businesses on Yelp? These three aspects covers pretty well of the characteristics of the UGC on Yelp's network. And the data I use is from Yelp's academic dataset, including 6 states, essentially cities in the US. And I have about 100,000 business data, of which I use their geographic location, their categories or genres, their stars, which are the ratings, and their review count. I also use nearly 500,000 user data from it, of which I mainly use their friendships or friend connections among them. The three objectives are implemented via 3 approaches. First is category analysis using Python, which looks at the rating and popularity of top 10 categories and the selected food genres in the Yelp data. Second is network analysis using Gephi, which examines some exploratory characteristics of the Yelp user network. Third one is spatial analysis using ArcGIS, looking at the kernel density estimate of businesses at both national and city scale. So here are the results of my analysis. For category analysis, the graph on the left represents the total number of businesses in the top 10 categories of Yelp business data. So here are the 10 categories I can see on the x-axis, and the one on the right represents the total review count of those categories. So we can see for both graphs, restaurant is clearly the winner, which has about 30,000 restaurants totaling 2 million reviews. And this graph shows the combination of popularity and ratings of the businesses in each category. I define popularity as the reviews received per business in each category. So for example, for the bars category, the popularity is 80, which means on average, each bar in this receives nearly 80 or even 90 reviews. So that gives this the highest popularity among these categories. So we can see on this graph, and also the grayscale represents the ratings of the average ratings of the businesses in each category. So we can see on this graph, although bars, nightlife, and restaurants have higher popularity ratings, popularities, their ratings are relatively low. And unfortunately, automobile is the lowest rated category, also with a very low popularity. And beauty and spas is the highest rated category. This graph shows the same idea, same concept applied to a different data set, which are the different food genres. So we can see American food are clearly the winner for both the restaurant total count and the total review count. And for this combination map, we can see that Chinese food is both the lowest, is the least popular, and also is rated lowest, while French food is both most popular and also rated highest. So that's some interesting results there. So here are the results of my network analysis. For the raw data, because it contained almost 1 million edges and 500,000 nodes, it was a too large data set for any of the computation tools I tried. So I filtered the data by its eigenvector centrality larger than 0.05. As you can see, the distribution here, only few nodes are significant in the network, which is evident long tail effect. So I think based on eigenvector centrality, to filter data is pretty safe. And that gives us about 2,400 nodes and 100,000 edges on average. The nodes degree are 81, so which means each user is friend of 81 other users on average. Here we can see the distribution of the degrees. Also shows the sort of a long tail effect. And the average, it takes about 2.3 leaps in the relationships on average from any user to another user. And the maximum distance in the network is only 4, which I think is very low. This is further testified by the lower modularity value, which is 0.328, and only 6 communities were detected. I think these all suggest that these high influential users are fairly well interconnected. And this is the graph of the entire this is still the filtered graph, but we can see how connected these users are. So here are some results for the spatial analysis. I selected 6 states in total, which has a relatively higher business count. And here are the average review count for each businesses in the states. We can notice that Nevada has a high average review count of 51, which is kind of peculiar and worth further examination. And on average, the businesses in the states have a rating from 3.57 to 3.71, which is relatively high on a scale of 1 to 5. And here are some maps of the businesses. This one is the spatial distribution of them. This one is the kernel density function, which is a surface analysis that's applied to the total count of businesses. This one is the same function that's applied to the total rating, or I mean average rating of the businesses. And this one is the same function applied to the average review count. We can see that from this total count of businesses to total rating to the total review count or popularity, the core of each cluster seems to shrink gradually. Does it mean that as we get closer to the city center, the more popular we can expect the businesses to be? I think this is further proved by this map at city scale, which is at Phoenix, Arizona. So this is again the total, the spatial count of the distribution of the businesses. This one is the kernel density function applied on it. This one is the same function applied to the ratings. This one to the review count or popularity. I think we can see the kind of the same phenomenon happening here, which is kind of interesting. So to conclude my findings, there exists evident variations of the UGC on Yelp regarding to the business category or food genre and geographic location of businesses. Also, there clearly are popular users in Yelp's network, but there are many small communities detected. So relatively open community on Yelp, and the users are fairly well interconnected with each other. And I think this question is interesting to discuss. Is bias in UGC necessarily bad? I think in Yelp's case, because the reviews are mostly subjective opinions of the restaurants, or I mean of the businesses, it's not necessarily bad because it's kind of a subjective intrinsically. But for other more like factual based context, such as a news feed, I think it's better to be more objective and jump out of our own close friend cycle. So here are some limitation of the study. First, it's only a descriptive study, lacking explanatory factors or methods. So this is only an exploratory research for now. And also it lacks the user's geolocation and review information in my analysis because of the scope of this study. And I think further studies will be useful to have empirical studies to evaluate the actual impacts of UGC, especially the distortion in it, and also can utilize the textual analysis of user review to provide a more accurate description of the Yelp's network. And finally, here is the reference page. Thank you.